Okay, peeps, welcome back. So today we're going to be going over 4 new high-yielding dividend ETFs that are either at market or coming to market. So with that being said, let's get it. Okay, so the first two I want to bring up here are the short Coinbase and short nvdy ETFs that are going to be released at some point in the future. I'm not sure. It says coming in July. I guess we don't really have a date from uh, the guys over at YieldMax yet as to exactly when this thing is going to come out, but as you guys can see, it's on their timeline. So, in terms of these short ETFs, I think it would be good to have at least some short exposure in the event that if the Fed cuts rates and the markets decide they don't like what's going on and they decide to sell off, because markets do that a lot. It's been the historical norm every time the Fed has cut rates. It's not when the Fed cuts rates that the market would tank. What usually happens is at some point during the Fed rate cuts, the yield curve will uninvert, and then the markets go from looking at the Fed rate cuts being a good thing to, oh crap, unemployment's going up, uh, stocks are starting to tank, the yield curve just uninverted. Some other bad stuff might pop up that then may want to usher in some kind of short positions that would make sense at the time. So basically, if the markets did fall off a cliff, this would be a nice hedge to have in place in the event that happens. Again, I've stated before that I think that likely we're not actually going to have a market crash as a result of the Fed cutting rates. My reasoning behind that, I've stated this 1,000 times, is because we had a market crash in 2020 and 2022. Okay. So, in my opinion, the 2022 market crash, which was extremely brutal, and it was just a long, slow bleed, very long, slow bleed, was actually pricing in ahead of time. That's just my opinion, but markets are very forward looking. They usually price things in 12 to 18 months ahead of time. If the markets were anticipating, let's say the end of the bear market was in November of 2022, which, if I'm not mistaken, it was somewhere around there. That would 18 months forward would put us roughly about where we're at now, which, if I'm not mistaken, I think the market initially believed that the Fed was going to cut rates at the beginning of this year. So it could already be priced in. That's possible. But regardless, it's good to have a hedge in place. So in terms of these two ETFs, I would say the ones of all the yield max short or inverse ETFs that I would want to have exposure to, it would be the ones related to crypto. So we have some YBit, although it's not really that much. I would be more concerned about, I do think it's good to have an inverse YBit, okay? But I would be more concerned about Coinbase and MicroStrategy, because if or when there is a crypto bear market, which may or may not happen because of institutional adoption at this point, but if the cycles remain true and there is actually going to be a bear market, let's say at the end of next year, theoretically, we could just get out of the long positions and move that money over into short positions. And then as the bear market commences, we keep an eye on the markets through technicals and whatnot, as the short positions that we pile into then go up in price. And we're also getting paid increasing dividends on the flip side. So instead of, basically we're long during the bull market, short during the bear market, that kind of thing. I think the other ones are good to have too, but these would be my two primary concerns. So those are the new ones. Those are coming out next month. The next one I want to look at with you guys is AIPI. So I've talked about this one before. I think this ETF is probably actually going to be better than fepi, and I'm going to tell you guys why. So there's a few reasons. Number one, anything AI is going to moonshot. It's been moonshotting for like a year and a half. Any of these tech companies that came out and said, even mention the word AI, their stock, absolutely moonshot like crazy. We've seen it many, many times. Those of you guys that are invested in the Mag 7, this is true. So AIPI, we haven't gone over this one in depth, but it does have a slightly different holdings than fepi. The main thing I want to point out here is that the next distribution date, and I think we are actually going to front run this one, so we're going to get some shares before it has the announcement, is going to be the 25th. I don't think that they're going to wait until the 28th to pay out, because if they were, they would not have this declaration listed down here for July. I think that the way that they're going to do it is a little bit different than yield max. That's just my opinion. But the two things I want to point out here, number one, is that AI is the wave of the future. Okay. 10, 20, 30 years from now, AI is only going to become more prevalent in society. And having an ETF that wraps all the biggest, best, brightest companies in the United States into one ETF that also pays simultaneously high yields and has price appreciation, in my opinion, is going to be the ultimate ETF. Do I think this is going to be the only AI ETF that hits the market that pays a dividend? No, I do not. But it's a good starter. I'm pretty bullish on it. I think it could potentially be a really good position to hold, and it might even pay more than FEPI. So we'll have to wait and see. So the next one here is, as you guys know, we have SPYT. So recently they came out with a NASDAQ version of this. Now, you guys can see it says it's going to pay 20%. So maybe I could be wrong about this, but SPYT has pretty much more or less held the NAV. It hasn't necessarily increased in price, but maybe because the NASDAQ's a little bit more volatile, we might actually see some price appreciation on this one, even if it is pretty small. Or not, even if it stays flat and it just pays income, that's also good too. So this is one we're taking a look at. Anything related to the NASDAQ, we definitely want to have some exposure to. So you can see the first declaration here is for the 31st of next month. So we are probably also going to pick some of this up in between now and then as well. So those are the 4 ETFs. The other we're going to go over a few other things here, but I wanted to I wanted to point this out in terms of AIPI because I think this is significant. So if I go over the max time frame here on FEPI, you guys can see we're up 6% from inception date. So inception 51.67 a share. We're currently at 54.73 a share. That's great, right? And we did just receive a dividend, so there's that. And we do also have roughly about 100 shares, as you guys can see here. So we have a lot in FEPI. So, basically what that means is we're probably going to have a lot in AIPI too. So this one's up 6%. Okay, so I'm going over to the AIPI one. As you guys can tell, this one is already up more in percentage, and it hasn't, it is available to buy now, but it hasn't even paid its first dividend out yet, and it's already increased on a percentage basis more than FEPI has. So that's the thing I want to point out here. I think that the AI ETFs, not that FEPI is a bad ETF, it's a great ETF, but in my opinion, I think that AIPI is actually going to be the better choice, which could also mean it has a higher price per share, and it may not, if you get in cheap enough, you may not even have to have as many shares to get the same amount of passive income per month. And what I mean by this is so we have 100 shares of FEPI, so FEPI pays $1.15 a month, that's $115, right? Maybe AIPI pays like $1.30, $1.40 per month. So if you get, let's say 60, 70, 80 shares at roughly the same price as FEPI, if you can manage to get it at that price, if you wait for like dip buys and stuff like that, you may not even need to have as many shares to get as much income, is what I'm saying about this. So that's the thing I wanted to point out about those ETFs. Again, the short yield max ETFs, and also AIPI as well as triple QT. So in terms of how the ones that we have performed, so I'm going to go over those. So I believe the first one here that I'm going to go over is, let's see, which one was it? So we have Cony. I believe nvdy was the first one, if I'm not mistaken. So you can see the current price, $29.20, average price here, $30.73. We have more shares over on M1 Finance, but this is 72 shares on this portfolio. So down $110. So it actually has changed after hours. But so we're down 100. Well, I guess, yeah, this would actually be $110. So the total dividends would be $248.88. I can actually recalculate this. So $248.88 minus, we'll just call it 111, keep it simple. So up roughly still about $137.88 on this particular ETF on this account. And keep in mind, this does not account for profits. We keep profits on a spreadsheet. So we'll come out with like a total return spreadsheet at some point that will show you guys the total return for all of these ETFs. But we recently did the math on that between profits Let's see, profits, dividend income, and then offsetting that with either the gain or the loss in the current share price based on our cost basis. And only 2 of the ETFs that we hold on this entire portfolio right now are underwater. Only 2 of them. Okay. That's Tesla and MRNY. All of the rest of them are total return positive as of right now, between everything included profits, income, and cost basis. So you can see the dividends here: 57.78, 57.48, 26.42, and 107.20. That comes out to that 248. So the next one is, let's see here, where is it? Cony. So 188 shares. Unfortunately, Cony is kind of getting beaten to the dust lately, but it's not really surprising. I mean, look, it's kind of been ranging between this 18 all the way up to $29 level. I don't think Coinbase is done ripping. I don't think crypto's done ripping. I don't think Bitcoin's done ripping. I think that we'll probably see a resurgence in bullish price action maybe immediately after the presidential debate tomorrow, or maybe some kind of summer lull. As we get closer to October, November, December, it goes up. The crypto related space goes up in price. So minus 1,082 on Coney. Again, a lot of shares here. So 188 shares, average cost base is 25, kind of been averaging down over time. So you can see this 1,082.41 here. I'll go back over the history here and basically just click on the dividends tab. Okay, I don't know what this thing is doing. Give me a second, guys. Okay, so you can see the dividends tab here. So we've had this thing basically since October of last year. That was right around the time of the spot Bitcoin ETFs. So 1511, 6268, 2763, 129.91, 231.29, 188.77, and 225.56. So that total dividend comes out to looks like 1,082.41. So the price has changed after hours, or sorry, 880.95. So total return minus 201.46, but that's actually not true because we have not factored in profits in these numbers that we're showing you guys. Okay, so the profits are going to offset this number. We're likely still positive on this one. So now I'm going to go over fepi. So fepi is not a huge amount of price appreciation, but it's definitely held the NAV pretty strong for quite a long time. So minus 81.45, as you can see here, as of current total return. I'm going to go over here to the show more tab and down to dividends. So here's the dividend history. So 696, 989, 2038, 2243, 6395, and 11301, which is actually pending today as of, the current date, respectively. So 236.62 would be that total number, obviously minus the current drawdown. So 155.17, again, that's positive 155.17. That does not account for profits that were also taken. And SPYT, we don't have a lot of data on this one because it's a relatively new holding. You can see it's down currently $3.48, so not even 1%. Go over here again to the dividends tab, and then once again, we've only had one payment on this one, so the second one's coming up pretty soon. Current drawdown, 348. 1189 in the dividends minus 348 comes out to 841, and again that does not even include and or account for profits. So these ETFs that we've talked about today, so the DIPS, FIAT, triple QT, and AIPI, we are going to take a look at getting. We're probably going to go with triple QT and AIPI first, because I'm not so sure that DIPS and FIAT are going to have a dividend payment in July. You guys know how this works. Usually it takes a little bit longer for the Yield Max ETFs to actually pay some kind of dividends. So we may end up front running that maybe closer towards the end of next month. We'll just have to wait and see. So anyways, hope you all enjoyed this content. Please like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see y'all later. Peace.